Hi, my name is Corey Brown, and this is my case study for Module 16. First of all, for the summary of the case, Principal Mr. Stevens, he heavily relies on parent support at events, school events, because they are in a low socioeconomic school district. Mrs. Alice Bowman, she is one of the students' parents there in the school, and she often volunteers to either collect gate money, manage concession stands. She does a lot of things for the school. She did request that her daughter's cheer trip, that cost approximately $798, be funded by the PTA. Mr. Stevens, the principal, he did review that request, and he did deny it on the grounds that the money would be used for a single student rather than for multiple students, as the true intentions of the PTA fund should be for. At the next game, which was the final game of the season, there were a lot of people there. It was a maximum capacity crowd. Mr. Stevens was unable to oversee the money details of the game because he was spending all of his time supervising the game, and so he heavily relied on parent volunteers to manage the assignments at the concession stand and the attendance gates. And Mrs. Alice Bowman did work at the admission gate that night. Mr. Stevens did witness one of the patrons pay a $50 bill to get into the game that night, and he made a comment on it. At the end of the game, Mr. Stevens strictly followed the established protocol and took the money out, counted it, made sure everything coincided. When he got to the entry gate bag, he did notice that Mrs. Bowman had left a note that 10 tickets were missing because they had been torn, and so she had discarded them. Ironically, the $50 bill that he had witnessed one of the patrons pay to get in for admissions was not in the bag as well. And ironically, the $50 would have been the same amount that 10 tickets would have been. For the Category 1 problem identification and analysis, first of all, what do I know? We know that Mrs. Bowman's request that the PTO pay for the daughter's cheer trip had been denied by Mr. Stevens. Mrs. Bowman also worked the gate at that game. The ticket accounting sheet noted 10 torn and discarded tickets. The money total equaled the accounting sheet amount. The total did not include the known $50 bill, which ironically is the same amount as 10 tickets. What do I need to know in order to make a clear decision on this case? First of all, what is their admissions protocol? And secondly, was there another adult working the admissions gate that night? It did say earlier in the case study that typically at a game there are always 2 adult workers working at the different money handling events. Another adult was not specifically mentioned this night, so we don't know if there was an adult or not. Thirdly, where are the discarded tickets that were torn? Are they in a trash can? Or are they in somebody's purse? Where are those tickets, and is there any way that we can account for those? What are the other denominations of the bills in that admissions gate bag? Is there a larger bill than that $50 one? Maybe the $50 was given in exchange for a larger one as cash. And did anyone else witness the torn tickets? There again, was there another worker? And has this type of situation ever happened in the past? For the problem identification and analysis, first of all, problem 1, Mr. Stevens needs additional administrative or school employee support during events. If nothing else, there just always needs to be 2 people working at a money event at one time. If maybe some teachers could be coerced into helping with these events, that would be very helpful as well. Problem number 2, if this game had a single worker, multiple workers need to be in place to help reduce theft or issues of suspicion. There just always needs to be a checks and a balance system in place. And problem number 3, workers need to be trained in all the policies and held accountable. For the Category 2 proposed plan of action, first of all, step 1, Mr. Stevens probably needs to meet with the other parent who worked the gate that night with Mrs. Bowman, if there was another parent who was there working. He needs to explain the situation and do it very diplomatically and maybe ask for clarification and specifically ask about the torn tickets and the missing $50 bill. Step 2 would be to revise the policy so that it reflected the need to keep all tickets, in spite of any damage, all tickets need to be accountable for. And both workers must always count the money and sign off on the accounting sheet. And then the third step would be to meet with the workers to cover new procedures or the need for new procedures and explain the need for a possible change in policy. Strategy to implement these steps would be maybe at a PTO meeting, have the PTO president aid in training all the workers in current and new policies. The second strategy might be to create a checklist, and this could be something that maybe they could erase or whatever, but have a checklist at the table or the money box, and so that the workers, all they'd have to do would be to check off each step so that all of the policies were listed there, making things easier to follow. And then the third strategy would be training policies need to be implemented for new members prior to working an event so that all the new members, everybody is trained exactly the same and knows all of the policies. My thoughts during this case and some of the things I was thinking about is that Mr. Stevens is going to have to be really, really careful and very, very diplomatic in his wording of the situation if and when he questions people in regards to this missing $50. The relationships between the community and the school are very good, and he has a really good thing going here, and it would be terrible if all of that was lost just due to $50. So he's really going to have to approach this in the right manner and very carefully. My feelings about this is I almost feel panicked when I think that Ms. Bowman might actually be innocent and that the explanation of the torn tickets might be a legitimate explanation. Maybe the $50 bill was given back as change to somebody who had paid a higher denomination to get into the attendance. So, I mean, that's entirely possible. Since we don't know what the denominations of the money in the money bag were at the end of the night. I really do feel like $50 is such a minor amount, and even that we don't even know that the $50 was actually lost, but it's a minor amount to risk losing this level of positive community support just over a risked misunderstanding. Values, the community respect for Mr. Stevens is very obvious. It's apparent in the amount of support that he gets from the parents on a volunteer basis. They're not even paid for any of the work that they do. With this level of respect that he has, I feel that Mr. Stevens is going to make the right decision here and handle the matter in an appropriate manner. Category 5, I'm supposed to reflect on Standard 8, which the school leader promoted effective and efficient management of the school or district by, first of all, making use of parent and community volunteers to help run events rather than having to pay money out of the school or district to have that done. If you have so many people willing to give and volunteer their time, why not use those assets? And he developed and fostered community and school relationships by allowing members to help with these events. That just builds the cooperation and the trust and the working togetherness of the two entities. And he put the needs of the many students above the request of a single student. The school leader promoted the social learning of every student by always involving parents and community members and just enlarging that social pool for those students. I mean, he has a lot of people from the community involved in that, and it becomes a social event for the community. He dedicates so much time and effort to extracurricular activities. Even though he is short-staffed, he still makes those activities available to his students. And he allows such a varied range of extracurricular activities to promote that social learning of the students. And he promoted student academic learning by taking steps to protect school funds so that the school funds could be used for academic purposes. He allowed parents to help with activities, thus saving other school funds to be used for academic purposes. And he allowed parents to aid in the Reading Buddies program. I mean, what a great learning strategy for those kids. So thank you so much for your time. I have enjoyed this class, and I hope to see you in some of my other classes, administrative classes that I take. Thanks so much, and have a great day.